Welcome to Primetime Super Friends, the show that promises to put the bat in your belfry, the arrow in your quiver, and the flash in your pan. I'm John, your guide to the world of Gotham. I'm sitting here with my two good friends who wear spandex just because it feels good. First up is the man who sat back and toasted marshmallows as the glades of Starling City burned. Jeremy?
My name is Jeremy.
Next is a guy who, when the particle accelerator blew, he thought he gained superpowers. Turned out it was only indigestion. Michael.
Hey.
Let's get this out of the way early. This podcast is primarily powered by spoilers. If you're not up to date on all things primetime, you've been warned. That being said, let's get into it.
Super Friends, the legendary superpowers show.
All right, so this week in the world of Gotham, we open with Bruce and Alfred. And Alfred's a little mad because he's like, Bruce, you need to be a kid. And doesn't like all the detective stuff that Bruce is getting into. Threatens to burn it. And Bruce is defending himself, saying that he's trying to figure out how Gotham works. And he questions if there's the possibility that Wayne Enterprises is a little bit corrupt. Are we still just generally creeped out by this?
About him being a master detective?
Yes, yeah.
I don't know if creeped out's the right phrasing. I don't like it, though.
No.
Like, he needs to... he could be getting his feet wet type of thing, but he's already balls in.
See, I'd like to see some kind of whimsy. Like, I feel like they could have done the Bruce Wayne Gray Ghost inspiration thing.
I'm okay with no whimsy because his fucking parents are dead.
I just mean,
That's
like...
whimsical.
You can... I'm saying, like, you can have him watch a TV show or a cartoon that, you know, makes... That isn't based in his real world.
Yeah.
You know, that makes him think, oh, I can... You know what? I can look into this stuff, too. Not just, I'm rich. I can look into shit, Alfred.
But I'm sorry... I'm of the school of thought, and I forget where I've seen this, but I agree with it. The moment his parents died, Bruce Wayne's no more, and he's now becoming Batman. So fuck whimsy.
We start things off with Maroni. He's talking to his men about making moves against Falcone, and that kind of takes the tone of the episode. We're introduced to a guy who, he's wearing a trench coat, the villain of the week. We don't know who this is, but he gives a street musician a vial. The vial is filled with Viper, and when I saw the vial, and you knew he was going to take it, and you kind of see that he gains strength and gets...
Venom.
Yeah, my initial thought was Venom. The only thing that got me was when he was on the Viper, he talked like he was from some sort of medieval fantasy movie, and I'm like, is that one of the side effects? Because it automatically made me think of those drug commercials where it's like, Viper will cause massive diarrhea, heart palpitations, and the ability to speak like you're from Game of Thrones.
Maybe it's just foreshadowing to Bane talking like that in The Dark Knight Rises.
I didn't even think of that.
Dun.
Yeah.
So then after that, we get into the first appearance of our Gotham PD in this episode when we see Jim and Bullet getting a burger, having a nice little conversation, maybe kind of building that bridge back up from their recent episode breakups, and the return of Catwoman.
Call her Cat, John.
I'm sorry. Oh, Cat.
She's not a woman yet. Not yet.
We knew it was her because she, kind of walked down the car like a cat, I suppose, would.
Crouched like Spider-Man is what it looked
Pretty
like.
much. That's the... Then we get back to Fish Mooney, who's training the femme fatale singer at this point.
So awkward.
See, I didn't think this was as bad this
Just
week.
always comes across like she has to fuck everything. Her mindset is just, who's getting fucked?
Yeah,
in my mind.
who's playing with my twat tonight?
That's it. That's her character.
Yeah.
Twat movie.
That's why her name is Fish.
And moving on. We then go to like a meeting of the five families type scene where Falcone is he's trying to explain to everybody the Arkhamdale worked itself out. Don't worry about it. Then we have, I didn't even catch the guy's name. I just wrote down generic Russian man who questions Falcone, kind of bucks up against him, and Fish actually, she steps in and she has Falcone's back, which I sense something is awry.
Not in Gotham.
There is no subtlety in this show whatsoever. No. I mean, like, they're just like, just tell him everything. It'll be fine.
You say that. I've had to point out a couple things to you guys. The penguin in the freezer.
Part of it's just hoping that...
Yeah, but was that really a connection to Bane, or was that just because...
I can almost fucking guarantee you it is.
Yeah.
It's more those writers going...
Need like a sound clip of that. Just like, we're hilarious. Gordon and Bullock start working the beat. We get kind of a cool little montage, which the show seems to enjoy. It eventually leads them to the guy who robbed the store. He had stolen the entire ATM from it. There's the altercation. He stands up and he actually picks the ATM back up. Forgot to mention, when he went to the convenience store, he was just like sucking down milk like it was nothing.
You would think that would be Selena Kyle doing that.
Right, exactly. Why though? Selena
she's
Kyle?
a cat.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Cats like milk.
She came in and lapped up what was on the floor.
There you go. with her tongue. She did not use a cup or anything.
Thanks.
Just saying, that's what cats do.
Anyways, we see that this guy has just been, drinking milk like crazy before this fight. He picks up the
Does the body
ATM
good.
to throw it at Gordon, who always just keeps seeming to throw himself in the way of the action or whatever. That's about the time the Viper runs out, and the ATM crushes him.
Hilarious.
They just needed to have the trombone in there going, wah, wah.
Or like Bullock or Gordon, probably Bullock, being like, well, there's more than one way to smash an egg or something like that.
Yeah. Or that milk didn't do that guy's body good.
Yeah.
Which we obviously make the connection at that point. This Viper is destroying the calcium in people's bones.
What?
Yeah.
Are you a scientist?
I might be based off this show.
You could show Batman how it's done.
I'm learning it from watching him. I don't know if you guys know this. I never picked it up in the comics, the movies, the cartoons, but Wayne Manor is only one room.
It's one little ass room in a big ass house.
Yeah.
How does that work?
It looks smaller on the inside.
Smaller on the inside.
Yeah.
They rent
The
out
reverse
the others.
TARDIS.
Alfred's like, hey, this is getting old. Trying to get Bruce out of the house. He suggests he goes to a luncheon that's putting on by Wayne Enterprises. Bruce decides that that's a good idea. Not because, he needs to get out of the house, but because he's creepy, and he wants to interrogate the board of Wayne Enterprises at this meeting or this luncheon about their connections to the Arkham deal and possibly being funded by the gangs of Gotham. Bruce was worried that his parents had been in on it or part of it or connected to the mobs in some ways because this money is being sent through other corporate accounts. There's not a direct tie to the mob, but he suspects there might be one. Then we cut to the news, which Bruce always seems to be watching, and they're talking about Viper. I think it would have been funny at this point if they had called it Venom and he's just sitting on the couch and he's like, I need to get me some of that, because he was addicted to it for a while in the comic books.
Be way out of character.
Really?
It would. He's fucking Batman.
He's fucking 10 years old.
Can't wait till they walk into the room. He's got a sewing machine, just black fabric. Don't mind me.
Sharpening little bat knives.
We're then at Gotham Central with the Riddler, Gordon and Bullock, and the
Hey,
Chief.
he's not the Riddler.
Oh, I'm sorry. Edward Nygma. To that credit, he's the most subtle bad guy in this show so far.
I'll agree with that.
We find out that it's a company called Wellsine making the drug, which is owned by Wayne Enterprises. Then we get our Penguin sighting. Penguin decides he's going to make a move. He overhears Maroni planning a robbery of Falcone's casino, and he says he knows a guy who can get their men in without, any troubles. Maroni's like, I really like you. We should hang out and be friends. Maybe, go do stuff. That's enough to get Penguin to be...
Eat tuna sandwiches.
Yeah, eat tuna sandwiches.
Hang out in freezers. Maybe we can go to the zoo.
And then Penguin just opens up and spills the beans on everything, tells him all about the stuff with Fish Mooney working for her and liking fish and all that kind of stuff.
He starts busting out and dance like in Happy Feet.
Yeah.
I'm just going to lose my mind.
In which case, Maroni responds by slamming his head into the table because he can't trust him anymore. Cut back to Gotham Central. They're talking to the lawyer for Wellsine. She says that these accidents aren't connected, but then they realize that she realizes she knows Stan Patulski, who was a biochemist, and tells them that this dude worked on toothpaste and health and beauty products until he became disgruntled, tried to cut off his own ear, and they fired him. Bullock and Gordon go and try to, I guess they're going to go investigate a few things, and Gordon gets picked up by Maroni's men. Maroni's like, tell me the story about this guy, tell me what you know, referring to the Penguin. And if your stories match up, we won't kill you. If one of yours is different, we're going to kill you both. So then Gordon just spills the beans on everything, from top to bottom, every little bit about it. I guess he didn't have a choice, but at the same time, I'm like, you're a cop. You would think that he'd find some kind of workaround, but I don't know. It's Gotham, and cops seem to have no authority.
Maroney tells him, like, hey, if I need something from you, I'm going to call you. And he's just like, oh, okay. That was weird.
Yeah, Fish is still training the singer. She's teaching her how to act like she actually loves Falcone. I mean, we all knew from the beginning what the plan is here, so I think it's a little weird to show the training. I guess I would have liked to have seen us not having any idea what's going on, and then slowly gather that that's what it's going for.
You got to get Jada her screen time.
And that's exactly what these scenes feel like. Bullock is concerned about Gordon and what's going on in his life because he thinks that some crazy stuff's happening with Barbara, and that's actually what's causing him to seem a little bit weird, but not knowing it was the abduction by the mob. They finally lead to Gotham University. The professor at the university says that, Butowski was brilliant and he was a philosopher. Said Wellsine had Stan developing bioweapons. The second version of the Viper is Venom. They say Venom has no side effect. It's kind of the perfected serum formula, whatever you want to call it. I mean, what did you guys think about that?
I'm good with that as long as they don't have Baby Bane come around.
Oh, yeah.
It's happening.
No, is it?
Gotham babies, like Muppet babies.
Yeah.
But Gotham.
I'd watch that.
I might. But I'm just worried they're going to have like 15-year-old Bane going around breaking people's backs.
Right.
Breaking, police over his knee or whatever.
Would they give him the movie voice that Tom Hardy used, or you think he'd just be some Colombian kid?
He'd be a Mexican wrestler with the comic book mask, and he gets arrested when he breaks a dude's back.
I think you just described like episode 10.
Yeah.
He lets them know that Stan wanted the program ended. He went to the Waynes, and the Waynes then had it shut down. So that initially clears the Waynes of their involvement with this whole thing. But when they died, Wellsine started it up again with the blessing of Wayne Enterprises. The professor then, essentially spills the beans, which seems to be a theme of this episode. Anytime anybody's asked anything, they just tell everybody everything.
There are no secrets in Gotham.
Apparently not. He says that basically their plan was to kill a very small amount of people to draw the public eye to this being a problem. Then the old guy gets all vipered up and he crushes his walker, which I thought was kind of hilarious. And then gets shot to death, which...
I thought his whole transformation was pretty funny.
Yeah. We then go to the luncheon where Bruce and Alfred are having a good old time. But wait, Butowski shows up and he's going to gas the place. Bruce talks with Mathis, who is a Wayne Enterprises rep who worked with Thomas Wayne. Bruce gets creepy again, and he wants to talk business about Arkham and the irregularities that are happening.
I was kind of okay with this scene.
Really?
Yeah, because they got him out of the one room in Wayne Manor. I kind of think it would be somewhat natural for him to be asking questions about his parents' business. Maybe not in that detail.
And that's where I could kind of see that, but I feel like it's... If a 10-year-old were to sit you down and try to have this conversation, would you really take it seriously?
No, I think you'd do what this lady did and just kind of look at him like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Exactly. So at that point, Stan decides he's going to gas up the place, runs into Gordon, tells them exactly what they're doing again, in which case killing off poor people wasn't enough, got to go after the rich because then people might actually pay attention. And right as he's about to shoot Stan, Jim shoots the barrel and Stan jumps off of the roof, leaving him with a clue of Warehouse 39. We get to Penguin and Maroney. They're about to see if this robbery works out the way that Penguin said it would. If it does, then everything will be peachy in Gangland. Everything was a success. Penguin's in good. We see kind of his makings further along. And we cut to Fish, Mooney, and the generic Russian guy getting down.
So fucking gross.
Basically, we find out that they're working together and they're going to try to take down Falcone. So she's making connections.
Seriously, if they added that scene for sex appeal, they need to be kicked in the dicks.
I don't really remember.
Sexy.
What?
No, I'm kidding.
No one likes Fish in the bedroom. That's all I'm saying.
And then we get to our last
Okay, if you're
scene.
drunk enough.
That's supposed to be
Yeah,
kind of
point.
like the mic dropping thing or whatever till next week, the cliffhanger. Whereas Falcone's like doing the Mary Poppins thing as he's feeding birds in the park, which is just OG gangster if I've ever seen it.
He's going to kick those birds.
We realize that he has a little bit of a mommy complex. We meet the femme fatale as she's walking up, humming a song that his mom used to sing to him. And then they have a nice little meet cute in the park in the episode.
Oh.
That was awkward, too. Is he going to bang someone that's young enough to be his freaking granddaughter?
That reminds him of his mother.
Right. It's creepy on several levels.
But it's Gotham, so it will happen.
Yeah.
So, long story short, They've really got to find a little more subtlety, I think.
And they've got to come up with some characters that they can use, that they don't have to have some sort of pointer at a main villain every week, because eventually they're going to run out. I mean, I don't know. I'm just waiting on the episode where, like, a crocodile attacks somebody and then they find out that it's really a man.
Right, yeah.
You know, like, we're going to get crap like that every week. And
well, it's kind of like...
I was okay with this week's kind of Easter egg or pointer at Bane, as long as they don't go too far with it, but...
That's where the show could really find a better spot to be in giving us the blueprints that get there 10 years from now. The introduction of Viper, finding out it was Venom, I really liked that. I thought that was great.
But they could have had it be Viper for a season and then have it be revealed that it's now Venom. You know what I'm saying? They don't have to blow their load every episode.
So that's going to do it for Gotham this week. Jeremy's going to fill us in on all things Arrow.
So this week's episode of Arrow, we start off with a flashback to season 2 with Thea. She's getting into a limousine with Malcolm Merlyn. Her mom's just died. She's found out that Roy and Oliver have been lying to her about various things. She tells Malcolm Merlyn that she doesn't want to hurt again, so she wants to be taught things that will allow her to never be hurt again. From there, we cut back to present day, and we get our one and only scene of Oliver in the Arrow costume for this episode. It's just a quick little scene where he's chasing down some thug or whatever, catches him and interrogates him, trying to find out more info about the murder of Sarah, and the kid doesn't know anything, so he lets him go. We get to a scene with Oliver and Roy down in their secret headquarters. They're talking about finding Thea, and it's revealed that Felicity has traced her. She's not in Italy, as she had previously said. She's actually in Corto Maltese, which is an island off the coast of South America, and Diggle makes the quip, "What is it with your family and islands, man?" Roy and Oliver decide they're going to go get Thea. We have another kind of funny little quip where Roy's grabbing his bow as if he's going to board a plane holding this massive bow. Oliver's like, "What are you doing?" "Well, I'm going with you." "You can't travel with that."
Just gonna hijack the plane. It's no big deal.
But what I thought was funny about that is in season 2, there was an episode where Oliver goes over to Russia and he takes all his Arrow shit with him.
Oh, does he really?
Yeah. But they did travel on like a private plane.
I was going to say, you would think that family would have like a private jet.
Yeah, so I guess they must have been flying coach in this episode. I don't know. So we cut to a scene with Diggle and his baby mama and baby Sarah. There's a fair amount of humor at the beginning of this episode because we get another funny little line where he's talking to the kid and whatever and saying he's never going to let her out of his sight, blah, 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 blah. And the baby mama, I can't remember her name. You guys know that lady's name?
No idea.
Nope.
She says something about, "What are you going to do?" when she starts bringing boys home, and Diggle says, "That's what my Glock is for."
Oh, Diggle.
Yeah, exactly. He wasn't going to go to Corto Maltese with Roy and Oliver, but he's convinced to go because his lady says there's an operative there who hasn't checked in quite a while, and she wants him to go along so that he can track this guy down, make sure everything's all right. Meanwhile, we've got Laurel visiting some sort of MMA or boxing self-defense class anyway, and she's looking for info on a suspect, but the trainer's not going to give her any info. And instead he tells her she seems like she needs to work something off, and if she ever wants to be trained, he'd be willing to train her. You hit that on the head last week, John, about her taking some karate classes or whatever.
Yeah. Okay, and I had something about that. There was a boxing instructor in the comics, it was Wildcat.
Okay.
And I'm kind of wondering if this guy's going to become Wildcat.
Certainly could be, or some hybrid or something, because they've kind of done that where they mix characters together and whatever.
Oh, that's true.
Then we go to Corto Maltese, where Oliver and Roy have just arrived, and Oliver decides he's going to go talk to Thea alone before Roy gets to talk to her or whatever. So Oliver goes and shows up at the house where Malcolm Merlyn is living, of course not knowing that he's there or even that he's alive. He knocks on the door, and we see that Merlin's on the inside with his bow and arrow drawn, ready to shoot it if Oliver walks in the door. But the landscaper or whatever, which apparently the landscapers in Mexico are still like the same type of Mexicans they are in America. I thought that was funny.
I don't think I caught that.
Or that wasn't Mexico, it was South America, but
figure they'd have like Texans doing it or something.
Right.
The opposite.
Or black people. I don't know.
It's just white guys in business suits out there mowing the lawn.
It's just funny to me. Anyway, that guy tells Oliver, hey, if you're looking for her, she's working at this cafe, which I thought it was really weird that she's got a job when she's living in this massive mansion with her dad.
Right.
But whatever. So Thea's training. Malcolm is showing her he can dump a bunch of scalding water on his hand and not react. And he tells her pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. So Oliver finds Thea at the cafe she's working at, and we get several little quips about her hair in this episode. She's got shorter hair. Who gives a shit?
Roy.
Yeah, not as much to pull on.
Just grab the neck. Just be careful. Could get whiplash.
Well, and don't leave handprints.
Yeah. Grab the neck gently.
There you go. You don't always have to do it hard. Sometimes that's not right to do.
Sometimes you got.
Anyway, Oliver says he's got a plane ticket for Thea to come home, and she tells him that while she misses and loves him, she's never coming back to Starling City. And we cut back to another quick little thing of her training where she gets some of that hot water dumped on her hand and she quickly pulls away and says she can't do it. Meanwhile, we're back in Star City, and we've got a scene between Felicity and Ray Palmer. They're in the offices of Queen Consolidated, and Ray's showing Felicity to her new office, where he's telling her that he needs her to access some data on a hard drive that was damaged in the essentially the big battle at the end of season 2. Back in Corto Maltese, we have Diggle. He finds this operative whose name is Mark Shaw, and I think he may turn out to be something. I'm not sure, but it just sounded really familiar to me. He actually tries to attack Diggle when he first approaches him, but Diggle convinces him, hey, I'm here to help, and gives him his security key or whatever, a little USB gimmick that he plugs into his phone, make sure everything's cool. And Shaw tells him that he has some hard intel, a complete record of soft targets from Argus. I guess Argus, for catching up or comic book purposes, is the government agency that sponsors the Suicide Squad that Amanda Waller works for. Yep. So it's all related to that. Back in Star City, we've got a scene with Laurel at Alcoholics Anonymous at an AA meeting. She talks for a minute real vaguely without saying what happened, kind of talks about how she's been depressed and whatever because of Sarah dying. And then we get a thing with another lady there. I think they said her name was Erica. She's been abused by her boyfriend, who I guess drinks or whatever, and she's got a bunch of bruises all over. And Laurel's dad, Detective Lance, comes to pick her up at AA or whatever, and Laurel's telling her dad, hey, we need to do something about this lady getting hit and this douchebag abusing her or whatever. But her dad's like, hey, the day that cops start showing their badges in AA meetings is the day that people stop coming to AA meetings, so I can't do it. Laurel drops a nice little, I guess, Easter egg or whatever, where she says that this guy has 8 assault charges as far away as Coast City, so a little nod to the Green Lantern there.
Mark Shaw is a manhunter, not Martian Manhunter, but Manhunter, which is kind of like a group of people who have worn the different mantle of vigilante, basically.
And they're supposed to have Manhunter in this season, so that's perfect. That makes sense.
Well, there you go.
There it is. Okay. So back in South America, Oliver, Diggle, and the Shaw guy are going to a location where Shaw says that the buy is happening. Of course, Oliver's not actually with them. He's hanging back, kind of watching Diggle's back, because we don't know what's going on. Diggle starts becoming suspicious because he's like, dude, like, how did you know where to come, and like, what exactly is going on, and whatever. He realizes it's a setup, and he tries to fight with Shaw, but ends up getting tased, and Shaw steals his little security gimmick, the USB or whatever, and runs off. Meanwhile, Roy visits Thea. He apologizes for all the lying, whatever, touching moment, whatever, blah, blah. And Thea says she's found herself, likes that no one knows her there. And Roy tells her, hey, if being here makes you happy, you should stay. And we get another training scene where we've got Merlin essentially is like, hey, this is my fault that you're not getting it. I was trying to train you as my daughter. Instead, I'm out to train you as a student. And he clocks her right in the face.
Yep.
In the face. She ends up getting pissed off, grabs a sword, and he's like, now we can begin. Diggle gets some information from baby mama that the buy is actually going to be going down tonight. So we flash back to Star City with Ray Palmer and Felicity. Diggle calls up Felicity, says he needs Shaw tracked. Meanwhile, Laurel is also calling Felicity. And another funny little quip where we get the, wait a minute, are we favor friends now? Wait, are we actually even friends? And, of course, Ray Palmer's watching all this go down. And Felicity just keeps saying, hey, it's a long story. Oliver decides he's going to tell Thea everything about the island, his time as the Arrow, etc., etc. And Diggle doesn't want him to do that, but Oliver says he has no choice. Meanwhile, Laurel decides that she's going to take matters into her own hand with the AA chick's boyfriend. Attacks him outside of some bar or club or whatever in an alley. And says, hey, I hear you like to hit women. How would you like to fight one that hits back? And hits him with a bat or whatever. But he gets the upper hand and kicks the shit out of her and tells her, hey, it's more fun when they fight back. Her dad, Detective Lance, comes and visits her in the hospital and tells her that, you know, she hasn't been being herself lately. He wants to know why. Tells her, hey, you're not the Arrow and you're not your sister. You got to promise me you're never going to do it again, which she does, but I think she's lying.
Me too.
So Oliver meets up with Thea and sits her down to tell her the truth. And he ends up only really telling her about one thing, which was that, and of course, if you've seen season 1, you already know this, but he tells Thea the truth about, I guess, their dad, Oliver's biological dad, I guess, at this point.
Yes.
And about the fact that he actually did make it off of the boat with Oliver to a lifeboat, and there wasn't enough food and water for both of them, so he killed himself. And he alludes to the fact that, of course, last season we had the mom sacrificing herself to Deathstroke to allow both kids to live. And he tells Thea, you know, hey, they both died so that we can live. And unless we're together, they died for nothing. Which I thought sounded a little bit like Let's Fuck.
Sounds exactly like Let's
right? And that's incest and that's gross.
But makes for an awesome crazy news segment on our other show.
That's true. Pub Talk Podcast.
Masked vigilante fucks his sister.
And Corto Maltese. Okay, so then we get a scene with Oliver, Roy, and Diggle. They find Shaw. There's a transcoder that, with Diggle's security key, reveals the targets. And it includes Diggle's family, and it includes his baby mama and kid. And then I thought this was kind of funny. Oliver has made a bow and arrows from the objects in his hotel room, smashing a mirror to create the arrowheads and ripping blinds apart to make the sticks of the arrow. I don't know what the terminology
I must
is.
have totally missed that scene.
I did too.
Oh, really?
That's
Yeah.
fucking crafty.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So at this point, some military guys show up. And Oliver makes a comment, it is not Argus. It turns out to be, it's these guys have hired, I guess, the South American military to fight for them. And we get what I thought was a really badass fight scene with these guys. Oliver runs out of arrows, his makeshift arrows, and he starts shooting motherfuckers left and right. Mm-hmm. And he just looks at Roy and he's like, hey, I never said I didn't know how to use a gun. So Diggle catches up with Shaw, and Shaw tells him that Argus made him do it. What Amanda Waller wants, she gets. And, you know, that's who put the bullseye on Diggle's family. And he says, hey, I didn't have a choice, but you do. And he asks Diggle to kill him, which Diggle just knocks him out and says, I wish. So back with Thea, she's telling her dad, Malcolm Merlin, she wants to go home. Seems hesitant at first, and they end up sword fighting. If she wins, she gets to go home. If he wins, she stays. Thea wins, but as she's walking away, she's like, hey, you let me win, didn't you? And he just says, I'll be seeing you soon. Meanwhile, at the airport, Oliver, Roy, and Diggle are just sitting waiting on their plane when Thea arrives. Guy next to Thea spills coffee on her hand, hot coffee. And she doesn't react, and Oliver kind of gives her that, "The fuck is up with you" look. Back in Star City, everybody returns to the headquarters. Oliver finds Laurel. Of course, sees that her face is all jacked up and asks her what happened. And essentially, Laurel just asks Oliver to train her. She says Sarah's jacket makes her want to be a hero. Oliver says no. Says, consider what would happen to your father if something happened to you. And then Oliver just blatantly says, I can't train you, and even if I could, Sarah would never forgive me. And we see Diggle back at home, and his wife or girlfriend or baby mama or whatever says she's working for Waller. Meanwhile, in the police station, the dude that attacked Laurel and beat up her AA friend or whatever has been caught and arrested on an anonymous tip, quotation fingers. Laurel goes back to the dude at the gym, the MMA boxing guy, and asks to train. Felicity has recovered the data from the damaged hard drive. She asks Palmer for a few days off, says she's visiting a friend who was struck by lightning. Barry Allen. Ray Palmer then is looking at the contents of this recovered hard drive and finds blueprints for just a bunch of crazy-looking weapons. Then back at the headquarters, the underground hideout, we've got Oliver and Roy discussing Thea, that something seemed different, when all of a sudden Nissa Al Ghul shows up, asking where Sarah is, and we blow our load for the week. I
thought the Felicity scene with the, she's got to go visit a friend who just woke up from being struck by lightning, I think it was pretty cool, because I think it kind of gives you the idea that the timelines aren't concurrent with each other on these shows right now.
I think they're going to be next week. It looks like.
Well, it looks like that's where things will catch up, and they do the crossover. And is that
the crossover? It looks like it's happening next week.
I think it's on episode 4 of
Flash. Yeah, it looks like Felicity is on that episode based on the previews.
Is Nissa the one that she had the sexy times with Sarah?
Yep. So that's why she's looking for her, because she's still got feelings for her or whatever. And it looks like, based on the previews for next week's episode of Arrow, that Malcolm Merlyn's going to show back up in Star City, and it's going to be the League of Assassins fighting alongside Oliver and Roy and Diggle and whatever.
It's about to go down.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I love the slow burn, I got to say, compared to Gotham.
Oh, yeah. We would have had Rage and a Lazarus Pit and all kinds of stuff by now.
Well, that'll do it for recap of Arrow for this week. So next up, Michael will talk to us about The Flash.
Okay, so this week on The Flash, I'm not really going to break down every scene. Going to hit a couple of the storylines throughout the show. So there was a lot of growth between a few different characters. Barry, of course, the episode's name was Things You Can't Outrun. So it was kind of nice to see that dude's not the Flash completely yet. There are some things, some demons that he has, some things that he has to work around, run past.
Spin into a tornado.
One big part of this story, or this week, was the story of Caitlin. Through flashbacks, you get to see a little bit more about what happened to her fiance, Ronnie. You find out, why she's so no-nonsense and so worried about Barry running into too many things. When they go back, you see the accident that caused Ronnie to die. You do find out that Ronnie sacrificed himself just shortly after him and Caitlin discussed their honeymoon, which just adds more tragedy, makes more sense to why she is the way she is now. During the whole tragic part of it, it was kind of hard for me to get into it, knowing that this dude's probably going to come back.
As a villain, most likely.
Knowing that this dude is for sure going to come back.
He's a metahuman.
I don't think there's necessarily any indication that he'll be a villain. If he was a good guy before,
And, I didn't know this, but do you know Caitlin is a metahuman in the comics? I didn't know that. Caitlin Snow actually plays a character called Killer Frost.
Spoilers!
Killer Frost, really?
She's one of the Killer Frost characters.
Is she really?
One of Killer Frost's things is the fact that she needs heat to keep going. Firestorm emits heat, and that's how they work together. So it looks like the show's building towards that. I guess there's been a lot of characters that have played Killer Frost, but Caitlin Snow in one of the more...
I didn't remember that being her real name, but if it's multiple people, then that makes sense.
That's one of the more recent ones. I think when I looked it up, it was like in the past year or two when they've created that character as part of it. So
which is why they're going to introduce it on a show.
On the TV show.
Yeah.
So do we think she'll become a villain?
Her version of the character in the comics does become a villain.
So do you think that when Barry inevitably bangs her, he's going to have to go real fast to keep everything warm?
That's funny, but that is a valid point, sir. Just vibrate super fast all over.
I haven't
her
had
body.
any super fast penis in a month. I can't survive.
Maybe that's why Firestorm kind of becomes a villain. He can't handle the heat that Barry gives.
Yeah, laying that heat down on my woman, man. I don't know. They had a super like obvious romantic connection and stuff. So.
Yeah. So this dude that plays Ronnie, his name's Robbie Amell. Is he related, do you know, to Stephen Amell?
I have no idea.
He
That would
looked
make
familiar.
sense.
I swear he's been in something else before.
Google. Relative, Stephen Amell, cousin.
There we go. The villain of the week this week is a dude that can control poisonous gas. Do you think the villain this week was too cheesy?
It was a little dumb.
A little dumb?
Really? I kind of liked him. I thought he was a little creepy.
I guess the fight scenes are what I thought was a little dumb.
Oh, well, that's that you never have somebody fight a cloud scenario.
Exactly. It was like Green Lantern fighting the Pooh monster.
Or the Hulk fighting his dad Cloud Man.
Yeah.
Or the Fantastic Four fighting Stormcloud Galactus. You just
Right.
you can't do it.
But at the same time, I mean, this is a weekly TV show, and they do have to throw something out there, so...
Yeah. But at least it led to the fact that they're like, hey, we got to figure out what to do with these people.
Right.
These metahumans, we can't just lock them up in county jail because they might just miss their ass through the bars. Or
Right.
So they wind up using I can't remember what it was called exactly.
What was that thing where the particle accelerator...
Particle accelerator, yeah. That's going to be the new gel for the metahumans, the mini that we will meet, at least for the rest of this season, because it was signed on for the complete season.
Yep.
Which is
Hell yeah.
pretty super.
Hell
Right.
yeah.
So we have a place to lock up these fools. A little bit about Barry this episode. He's still struggling with keeping his secret from Iris mainly and controlling his powers. One of the things that he does, he had to go to Iron Heights where Papa Flash is locked up. He easily could have broke his dad out of there, but he decided to leave him there because jailbreak's probably not the best thing to do when you're just starting off as a superhero. And the fact that him and Joe have decided to reopen the investigation into his mom's death. You don't want the main suspect just disappearing out of the prison, kind of
Yeah.
a wrench
Seemed
in
like
everything.
Joe kind of talked him out of that. Which, what did you think of the part where he like vibrated his face whenever he was in the jail?
I was okay with that. That was
okay.
cool.
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of funny.
Do you think that like they should have done like the slow motion version of that where he's just like shaking his face like a dog shakes, like
He's a motorboat son bitch.
how else do you vibrate your face that way? I mean,
Yeah.
Now I'm just thinking of just the Flash motorboating.
The Flash goes to the strip club and just
Strippers sore for weeks.
she's just got an imprint there,
that's what I was thinking. It's like you can literally see where his eyes, nose, and mouth would be.
but smeared because it was going super fast.
Yes.
We did have a scene where Barry and Iris were leaving a movie theater, and Iris goes to take a call from her boyfriend. Barry, during this time, goes out, busts up a criminal. The whole time that she's on the cell phone, makes it back without her even noticing.
I thought that was kind of cool.
It was. It's been forever since I've read the comics, but when does he get the ring?
I don't know. I wonder how how they can do that on the show.
I think it's one of those things you do like 2 seasons in.
Yeah.
Seasons in.
Yeah, because
Well, that's
I
when
mean,
they gave Arrow the mask. It was
Okay.
2 seasons in, so
it's kind of like that gets you the comic book trump at that point. You've got enough
Yeah.
credibility to go with it.
because man, that suit, though it looks okay when he's wearing it, when it's sitting on the mannequin thing,
Yeah.
looks stupid.
It looks
Yeah.
super stupid. Well, that'd be a cool plot point in the future, seeing Cisco developing
Yeah.
it and getting all.
You guys want to
super
see the
stoked about it.
costume get brighter?
Yeah, a little
Yeah.
brighter would be cool too.
I'd like more of a true red.
Yeah, instead of the
This
rusty
time,
red.
yeah.
So during one of the flashbacks, we have Dr. Harrison Wells still walking, goes into his little secret room, which I like that doorway. I don't know why I get fascinated by that doorway every time he does it.
I want one.
The walls look kind of crazy and everything. Yeah.
I love it. Goes into his room, and while all the shit's going haywire, he sees the room where Barry's at, and the explosion happened, creating the Flash. He did it intentionally. I mean,
It's like he knew it was going to happen.
he knew
Yeah.
that
So,
leading
okay,
more
let's be
precedence from
honest.
him being from the future.
He's from the future.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, part of me for a moment thought, what if he's, the Flash from the future? They have similar features. They could work itself out. Then I remember he stabbed the dude last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I felt like that's totally just
Maybe he's
disregarded.
the reverse Flash.
But and well, I mean that's the thing is Professor Zoom, Reverse Flash in the comics I think is the same person.
Yeah. So maybe
then there's that.
Eddie Thawne grows up into him.
Right, but I
And then
just
he
don't
comes
feel
back?
like they look like the
They
same.
don't look enough the same?
Yeah, like that's terrible casting if that's the case.
I could see that though.
I mean it's
Or just two different reverse flashes.
that's the other side of it too. Like maybe he's like, "Hey, I've got these powers.
there's
I'm going
multiple
to
regular
give it to somebody
Flashes.
else's." I think that's some of what Gotham is missing. This gives you that like line where it's like, man, I want to see where this is going.
Yes.
You know, which Arrow's great at. I want to see how this whole thing plays out. Whereas Gotham doesn't have that.
Gotham's like, we know everything that's about to happen.
here's
They're telling us
everything.
everything.
Well, then you can see it all coming from a mile away. And with Arrow, you've got a pretty good idea of where it's going. Same thing with Flash. But you don't know exactly what spin they're going to put on it.
Right.
And even though you kind of know what's going to happen, you're still like, I can't wait to see this shit. Gotham, I'm like, I guess I'll watch it.
All right, Super Friends, that's going to do it for this week. If you'd like to contribute to the show or give us feedback in any way you can, just hit us up at primetimesuperfriends@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at primetimesuper. If up close and personal is more of your style, you can find us each individually. I'm at Raging Leprechaun. Michael?
At the African 81.
Jeremy?
At Legendary Jeremy.
The best way to keep this show being beamed directly into your podcast device is to hit that subscribe button on iTunes and or Stitcher. You can always find us on the web at pubtalkpodcast.com. You can get the feed directly from there. And lastly, you can always check us out on our main show, Pub Talk Podcast, where things get very not safe for work. Until next time, keep listening, bitches.
That's better.